Welcome to Central Park in the heart of New York City. The park was designed in 1857 by Frederick Law Olmsted and Calvert Vaux, and was completed in 1876. The Central Park Conservancy has been the stewards of the park since 1980 and has been responsible for many restoration and rejuvenation projects around the park. Our first stop is the Conservatory Water. This area is surrounded by many small hills that had gardens originally modeled after those of the Fifth Avenue mansions that once lined the outskirts of the park. There was originally going to be a tropical plant greenhouse here, hence the name Conservatory Water. However, the conservatory was never built, but the reflecting pool remains. Many waterfowl, including the ducks you see here, utilize the water of the pool and happily take food offered by passersby. Shorebirds like cormorants also visit the pool. A mandarin duck visited the Conservancy water in 2018 and created quite a stir. The Conservatory water's major attraction is the motorized sailboats that can be rented at Curbs Memorial Boathouse. However, there are no boats in the water today, likely due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. The water feeding the Conservatory water is from the Ramble and the lake, both of which we'll visit later. Both the lake and the Conservatory water are on top of the old Sauk Hill stream that used to flow from the middle of Central Park all the way to the East River. The island of Manhattan had numerous natural streams, ponds, forests, and wetlands back before Dutch colonization, when the island was inhabited by the native Lenape, who called it Mannahatta. Now those streams are underground, making up the complex sewer and rainwater drainage system throughout the city. There are many statues throughout Central Park, including this one, depicting characters from Lewis Carroll's Alice in Wonderland. It is sometimes easy to forget that you are in the largest city in the US when you're in Central Park. However, if you turn around and look up, you can plainly see that we are still in the heart of Manhattan. We now make our way along the paths west towards the middle of the park. All along the paths, you might notice big boulders that seem out of place. These boulders were placed here by glaciers during the last ice age, known as the Laurentian Ice Age, 2.6 million years ago. Here is one of the archways that leads to the lake and the Ramble, the Trefoil Arch. You will notice that one side has the Trefoil Arch and the other side has a more rounded arch. There are a lot of arches and bridges throughout the park, each with a unique design. This is the lake, a man-made pond that spans a large portion of the middle of the park. It is the second largest body of water after the Jackie Onassis Reservoir further north. Check out those Canada geese hanging out by the side of the water. The green tint to the water is algae that thrives on ample sunlight and nutrients in the lake. There are many high-end apartment buildings surrounding the park, and here you can see the double towers of the San Remo. While the park is free for all New Yorkers and visitors, an apartment with a view of the park in one of those buildings will run you between $3 and $22 million. Next to the lake is the Bethesda Terrace and fountain. The fountain was commissioned as part of the original design of the park. The statue, Angel of the Waters, commemorates the opening of the Croton Aqueduct in 1842, which supplied fresh water to New York City from Westchester. The aqueduct was needed because the other major source of fresh water, the Collect Pond, near what is now Lower Manhattan, had been polluted and drained in the early 1800s. Just north of the lake and the Bethesda Terrace is the Turtle Pond. This is another man-made lake and is called the Turtle Pond because of the painted turtles that live in it. The pond is also home to birds, fish, insects, and aquatic plants. The pond is what remains of the reservoir that was once part of the Croton Aqueduct water system. Above the turtle pond is the Belvedere Castle, built by Frederick Law Olmsted and Calvert Vaux to give parkgoers a beautiful view of the pond and the reservoir beyond. If you're wondering which reservoir I'm talking about, you're looking at it right here. This is the Great Lawn, a vast expanse of grass and playing fields. This oval-shaped lawn was once the site of the largest reservoir in New York City during the time of the Croton Aqueduct. However, as the system aged and the city grew and the demand for water grew, new aqueducts were built to reservoirs in the Catskill Mountains. And the reservoir here was buried and a field planted in its place. The last site we're going to visit is the Ramble, the forest in the middle of New York City. There are multiple paths that lead into the Ramble, and this one is lined with black-eyed Susan flowers. Flowers like these provide food for pollinating insects and birds. This bumblebee is a native to New York State and is an important pollinator, but their habitat is threatened by urbanization and climate change. These flowers provide food for them, but most of the city is devoid of these important resources. The Ramble was designed by Frederick Law Olmsted as a wild garden where parkgoers could feel like they are wandering in the forest. While this oak forest may look natural, every tree has been planted to give the illusion of being in a forest. The trees provide important habitat for migratory birds that have been flying over Manhattan for thousands of years. A walk through the Ramble makes you forget about the city around you. However, we must also recognize how important having nature in the city is and how important equitable access is to these areas. While Central Park was originally designed to give all people a chance to explore nature, there is still so much work to do to make sure that all people have equal rights to enjoy the outdoors safely. People of color, in particular, have been discriminated against in parks in New York City and around the country. For example, earlier this summer, Christian Cooper, a bird watcher, was accused of threatening a white woman simply because of the color of his skin. The Ramble, along with the rest of Central Park, as well as other green spaces around the city, need to be a safe space for everyone and a place for peace and unity, not a place for hate and injustice.